Hey everyone, welcome back. I think for today's video, since we're down here at Cichlids of the Americas, and since we've got like probably the world's best collection of New World cichlids, we should maybe do some cichlid species profiles. Dan, this is probably the holy grail fish to a lot of people, and you don't have just one tank of them, you have what, 5?
Yeah, we have several tanks spread out. They're kind of permanent residents of our building now. But these are wild-caught asfracii, and these are caught as juveniles. I think when we brought them back, they were probably smaller than the size of my fingernail, and they basically were caught as fry. And one of the stories about it is that we thought we had all the answers. We actually had a lot of prepped foods to take for smaller fish and for fry. And when we had the fish there, the fish actually didn't eat anything that we had that was prepared. So we're really worried about them starving to death. And the problem got compounded more because the place we were staying at, the night after we captured them, we had oxygen running on them, and we had them in like a tote. And what ended up happening was we lost power that night. So we lost power for some 40 hours, but luckily we had battery-operated air pumps, so we had to wake up in the middle of the night and hook up battery-operated air pumps. So it's just one of those things that you don't think about until it happens to you when you go collecting. But in any event, I digress. What ended up happening was we figured out that we had to go back to the river and collect some rocks with some algae growing on them that had some bugs and nutrients in there. So we filled up the tote with the rocks that had all the algae growing on them, and they went to it like a moth to light. Immediately started eating everything in there, and they kind of stabilized. So we continuously replenished that for a few days until we packed the fish and sent them on over here. But they're about a couple years old. The colors on them are striking. And what I realized about this fish is it's very sensitive when it's under 4 inches, I'd say. Once they break the 4-inch threshold, they behave a lot more and act a lot more like normal cichlids do in terms of maintenance and care. Incredibly sensitive to high ammonia and high nitrates and high nitrites. So what will happen is, but they'll tell you, this is one of the few fish that I've ever witnessed that there's something wrong with the water. They'll end up losing color, not eating, become pale. Immediately they'll tell you. They're a lot less active. So we just got to make sure we pay attention to that at all times. And really, the reason they're sitting around here is because of the fact that it's every single batch that's here is a different trip, and it's a different story. Some of them are different locations. I think we have them from a few different locations, and always a challenge to catch, always the challenge to get there, and incredible challenge to get back because of just the location where the fish is located or where the fish is found.
Now, when I was here last, you were feeding them. They were in one of the smaller acrylics before all these new tanks are in place.
Sure.
And you were feeding them primarily just a very low-protein gel-based diet.
Yeah, they can take protein, they can't take fat. The problem with the fish is you start feeding them food that has a fat content higher than 5 or 6%, they just won't be able to digest it. So we learned that the hard way. I mean, the fish will look perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden it won't, and it'll fall apart in a couple of days. And typically what happens is It looks like bloat, but it doesn't go through all of the steps that bloat does. They don't really ever get as big. So we actually ended up doing a necropsy on the fish and figuring out what was wrong with it. But they just don't have the digestive enzymes at a juvenile size to take in high-fat food. So you could roll the dice with it, but I wouldn't recommend it, certainly.
Yeah.
So
We'll put a link up in the corner to the video that we did last time on your nutritional philosophies and how you feed your fish. Because
Sure.
fish like this. Now, one other thing is, was this found the water type of habitats? Like you've shared some footage and pictures and images of the habitat. But was the water, would it be similar to like the similar habitat that you'd find tuba in? Very, very fast water, highly oxygenated?
highly oxygenated, not fast. Deeper water than tuba. Tuba you can see in very, I shouldn't say this about tuba, it's not exclusive about tuba. We've seen tuba in very shallow waters, in waters that are less than a foot and a half. So you'll see them darting between rocks and stones. You don't see that with asfracii anywhere. What I saw with asfracii is they like deeper water. They like very nutritionally rich water. So what I can tell you is there's all kinds of food, whether it's shrimp, fruit, algae, you name it, is prevalent in this water. Not so much with tuba. Now that's not to say that there aren't tuba in similar waters in Costa Rica, but the waters that we caught these fish in, they tend to be fairly elusive. I've never seen this fish in water that's up to a couple of feet. I've seen tuba in water that's up to a couple of feet dozens of times. So this is a little bit of a different animal, and I know way too much about the habitat and how this fish behaves. And in the wild, they are highly secretive. So you can see them, but they're skittish. And I can tell you another thing is that I've seen tuba in the wild swim in twos or threes or singles. I've seen asfracii in the wild swim in groups of 10s or 15s or 20.
Oh, okay.
So not always, but as adults you'll see them at a foot long swimming with other asfracii without any problem. As soon as you get up on them, they disappear.
I've seen that kind of behavior even in your vats here, like when I'm sitting here filming calmly, that they tend to be in big groups. Yeah,
they're very suspect and very, so, my theory on it is probably some of it is evolution, because the places that they live, there's also a lot of very large predatory fish. So, they're probably food.
Yeah.
So,
well, to the cichlid nerds, this is probably, without question, the holy grail fish, and you're probably literally the only person that I know of, at least in North America, I can't say the world, but at least in North America, you would be the only one that would have wild caught multiple groups.
There is a good friend of mine also has a.
In California, yes, Chris Craig.
Yep. So I've shared the fish with him too. He's got a stunning colony, and he's an excellent fish keeper. So, I'm happy the fish are with him, and he's fantastic. I think he takes care of those fish better than he takes care of himself. Yeah, which is good to hear. So
only at Cichlids in America. Keep your eyes on the list, because one day you'll see some F1 fry listed, and they're going to go quick. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.